We've been waiting so long, the season's finally here. Soak it up and cheer, cause Timberwolves Talk is here. No need to fear, the wait is now gone. So farewell so long, cause Timberwolves Talk is on. Yeah, Timberwolves Talk is on.
All right, everybody. Welcome back to this rendition of Timberwolves Talk. This is a post-round one Timberwolves Talk podcast. I think the first one since probably the beginning of the season when we potentially gave some record predictions, right? Or did we maybe film one?
I think we did one. We've done two. We did one like record predictions, and then we did a reactionary one. But we say that to say it's been a long time. I think it's been a very long time.
And I think in the last video we did, I promised we'd do another episode this season. So we fulfilled our promise. We at least did one more episode. And honestly, like, this is probably the best time to talk about the Timberwolves. I mean, the ratings got to be decent. Like this podcast got to get a few views, right?
You'd hope so. And I think this is more of a necessity, honestly, than just doing it. Like I need to talk. I've been talking to random people about it. Like I've literally been starting conversations like, God, I hate JJ Reddick so much. And then people, they just don't care. And so I need someone to talk to. Just to get that out. Like I really, oh my goodness. We'll get to it later, but I just, oh my gosh, I cannot stand that man.
Yeah, and I mean, like, we've been talking Wolves, obviously. We've watched the past few games together, but I mean, it's good to get it all out on camera and kind of recap the story of this series, because I feel like going in, like, the Wolves were obviously hot. They were 17-4 or 16-4 going into the postseason here, and they got the Lakers draw. And I think, like, internally, all of us were like pretty okay with getting the Lakers to start. I mean, like, potentially there were some better matchups. I know a lot of people wanted the Nuggets or the Clippers, but in all honesty, like, I was totally okay getting the Lakers. And from the national perspective, I mean, there was basically nobody that picked the Timberwolves to win. Honestly, nobody. I know there's that graphic floating around that it's all the ESPN credentialed reporters, and they were all like Lakers in 5, Lakers in 6, Lakers in 7. And there was no sign of the Timberwolves. And I think going into the matchup, a lot of people just kind of pushed this series aside. Like, there was a lot of attention on the Clippers-Nuggets series. Obviously, the Warriors-Rockets series is still going on, but that one was really going to be talked about as a close one. But honestly, the most dominating series was this one, and it kind of went the other way, obviously, taking OKC out of the equation. But
sure. Yeah, I think when I first heard we were playing the Lakers, I was bummed out initially, just because I thought there was no way that this league would allow the Wolves to win it. And we've watched Luka in the past. I remember last year, it's so hard. It wasn't that bad this series, but it was so hard in the past to watch Luka. And just knowing that we weren't going to get any calls and it was going to be a game, there were going to be games decided by things that we couldn't control. And it was just a bummer for me that we got assigned the Lakers. A question I have for you, Chris, is we were all kind of, we didn't know what to think, but how do you think the Lakers felt when they got drawn the Timberwolves? Do you think they were feeling confident, or do you think they knew deep down what the media was trying to hide?
I mean, it depends. Like, I know I was listening to Reddick actually talk before the series, and like, for the most part, he was pretty complimentary of the Wolves. Like, I think the Lakers knew it was going to be a tough matchup. But from the outsider's perspective, like, I was listening to a few Lakers podcasts too before and during the series a little bit, and it seemed like they were pretty confident. I know, like, Lakers fans liked the matchup. I think the initial thought was like, yeah, they're not the biggest team ever, but they're going to, run that death lineup that Golden State kind of coined for the past decade and try to 5-out us and try to, isolate Rudy, similar to, the demons he had last, playoff series we got to watch with Luka and the rest of the Mavs. I mean, ultimately we'll talk about it a little bit later, but that Lakers team is not that Mavs team. They're the complete opposite roster construction wise. They don't have the bigs that the Mavs had last year. They're a lot smaller of a team. So, I mean, So yeah, kind of two-part there. Like I think the Lakers as a team knew it was going to be a tough series. I think we played them tough the entire year. There was only really like one real post-Luka matchup, but like we had, I think it was Nas and Dante out for that one, and then they had some other, key contributors out for that one too. So this was kind of the first look at like that fully healthy Lakers team versus a fully healthy Wolves team. And, obviously we know what happened now, but it was a little hairy going in. I think I know our fan base was a little nervous too. Obviously it's LeBron and Luka, but I think the Lakers were pretty confident.
Yeah, dude. One thing that is important is that I don't think we had a real complete game the whole series. Like, I don't think we had a game where I don't think we've reached our full potential as a team. And some games, including last night, game 5, that was one of the worst Timberwolves games I've ever watched in my life. I mean, when Rudy Gobert is the reason that we win, that tells you something. And that also tells you just how abysmal the Lakers team and coaching was. The fact that we shot the lowest 3-point percentage in NBA playoff history. Is that true, or is it lowest percentage in a playoff win?
I don't know the stat specifically.
And we shot a worse percentage than – remember when the Rockets shot 0 for 27 in the second half? Our final percentage was worse than theirs. Our percentage was worse than theirs, and we still won. So that just tells you how it should make you feel very confident as a Wolves fan, or maybe we might not ever reach that full potential, but also it's saying we have so much more to give as a team, and I think that just makes it so much fun to watch.
Yeah, and I mean, like a little pushback on it, because like I think Rudy contributes, especially during the regular season, to us winning a ton of games. Like the random January game where we're playing a bad team and it's close. Like I think Rudy does win a lot of those games by himself, but like not to the extent where he's the scoring threat like this. Yes. Like Rudy's never winning a game for us by his scoring. It's usually rebounding and defense.
To go back on that is that he's scoring most of our points because he's getting rebounds off our misses. Like he had 9 offensive rebounds. And so it's not like he's getting the ball in the post and doing a post move. I don't think he had a single post move that whole game. He's literally just getting putbacks or great dish offs. I mean, and I called you right at the start of the second half last night. I was like, this is the worst defensive team I've ever seen in my life regarding the Lakers. Just we get the ball in the middle on the zone, drive up, and it's literally 2-on-1. Like if you're gonna come guard me, I'm gonna lob it through. We're so dominant, and it was Na and Rudy. Like Ant wasn't doing anything.
Yeah, I mean, Game 5 was such an odd game because in those closeout games, obviously you expect a team that's in risk of being closed out to come out like super jazzed up. We saw it the game before the Rockets really stepped on the Warriors' throat after like the second quarter. It was like a 30-point lead by then. That's kind of what you expect in a 3-1 game or a 3-0 series. So the Lakers were the complete opposite. They came out terrible. It was it looked like they had already quit before the game had even.
I think they already had mentally.
It was odd because I mean, like the Wolves were playing decent in the first, but like you just felt like they left so much on the bone in that first half. Like I mean, they were getting great looks. Like they were playing good ball. They were getting good looks. They just weren't hitting shots, or sometimes they weren't going inside as much as they probably could and getting those free points that like the Lakers were just giving us. Even when they hopped in that 3-2 zone, like you'd see Luka or Finney-Smith on the other side, like Jaden could just drive the baseline or Nas. Like they were letting us have anything we wanted, but we were only up by what was it 9 at half or something like that?
Yeah, it's just terrible.
And yeah, you called me and we both kind of shared the same sentiment. We're like, all right, this game is over. Like the Wolves are going to start hitting some of these shots. It's got to be over soon. But
it was also we also said that if we lose this game based on how terrible the Lakers are playing and how terrible if we lose this game, this series isn't over because this is one of those ones you have to close them out. It doesn't matter how bad you're playing, how bad they're playing. You're still playing basketball. You got to go get that win in the most gritty way possible. I think we did exactly that.
Yeah. And well, I mean, the fact of the matter is like the third quarter was crazy because you thought the Wolves were going to come out and hit shots. They didn't. And you thought the Lakers were still dead. They woke up in the third and they went on like a 14-1 or 14-2 run. So that the third quarter got a little hairy, but I mean, overall, like kind of tying this in back to the other games of the series, a lot of these games went to clutch time, 5 minutes and below, the score's tied or there's a little bit of a lead. But we, this year, were a terrible clutch time team. And then this series, we won every single clutch time game against two of the best clutch time players in the entire league. I think that was honestly the story of the series, how the Lakers couldn't execute and we did execute.
Yeah, going into the series, that was one thing that everyone was saying is that if this game gets to the fourth quarter, if these games are close in the fourth quarter, we're going to have a complete disadvantage because they have two of the best closers in NBA history. And we have one of the worst closers in the top 10 of the NBA. Anthony Edwards is terrible at hitting game-winning shots. I think that's a different thing. He's terrible at hitting game-winning shots. I'll still say that. But at the end of the game, when we need him, he's phenomenal. He's phenomenal, and I think this series, even though I think last year he really solidified himself as a great in this league, I guess he still had a lot more to prove to the national media because now he's in top 5 conversations, top 4 conversations, all rightfully so, but he's really now getting on that national stage that I kind of already thought he was on after last year, to be honest with you.
Yeah. 2 points to that. One being what you just touched on was like, I feel like there's a lot of discourse right now, big word, that, people are kind of going on about like, I feel like everyone's having the Anthony Edwards like coming out party after this series when in reality, I think like it was kind of after like the Phoenix series. I mean, he had some playoffs already, like he had already played the Grizzlies and he played really well in that series. The series we lost to the Nuggets, 2 years prior, he didn't play as well in that series. I mean, he was still good. And then finally, against the Suns, I felt like that's really when he turned the corner. But I think this series, more than others, he was really good in the fact that like he was the main guy. Everybody knows he's the main guy. He's getting double teamed every time he's beyond the 3-point line. He's just got to make the simple pass, and a lot of it doesn't show up in it doesn't show up in the stats, but he's getting hockey assist after hockey assist just because it's 2 passes right away and then it's a 3.
Yeah, and I think what I just said is it was too easy. And I think that's all credit to Anthony Edwards. Is I think he made it look easy. He never made anything look forced. Every time the double came, he never – see, when I used to get double teamed in like 4th grade basketball in the 8 a.m. game when they had full court presses, I'd see the double coming and I'd pick up the ball and it's just deer in the headlight. Anthony Edwards never once looked phased. He just made the right play every time, and I think that shows his maturity. Another thing is last year, Mike Conley was the guy initiating the offense, bringing the ball up the court. And when he got hurt, that was last year that he got hurt, right?
Yep.
That was a huge deal because we didn't have Mike Conley. Ant was going to have to carry the extra load. This year, Mike Conley barely brings the ball up the court. Ant's always the one initiating the offense, and I think that's another area of growth. And that's not even mentioning his 3-point shooting, which was phenomenal last night, and it has been all season.
The Edwards 3-point shooting? Yeah, what did he even make a 3? Was it 0 of 11 last night?
0 for 11. Him and Dante were 2 for 24 from the 3-point line.
Yeah. That's absurd if you think about it, because like I guess going all the way back to game 1 to kind of tie in some of this, some of this game 4 and game 5 stuff to the first game. Game 1 was different than any other game in the series. All the other 4 games were very close, and like I don't know if we ever played an A grade in this series. I don't know if we ever had an A graded game, but that one was as close of I think that was probably an A- performance that they had. And that's what this team is if they're hitting their threes. Like I think we looked at the game at the time and like we thought it was probably a little unsustainable to make that many, but looking back at the percentages, it was like 40 to 50% they were hitting that game. And they really they didn't really do that the rest of the series, which was surprising. I mean, they were decent from the 3, but like they didn't have a game 1 performance in the rest of the series. They beat them from the inside.
I think that's what scares me the most, but also now at the beginning of the series, that's what scared me the most about this team. But now at the end of the series, that's what excites me most about the team is that I don't think we're a team that maybe once a series we're going to have a game where we hit our threes. I don't think we're not going to hit our threes. We're not going to hit our shots in that consistent nature. But I think the fact that we're still able to win in so many different ways, that's what excites me about this team. Is every single game we won it in a different way with different players, completely different formula, and that's something that I'm not going to give him any I don't know the word. I'm not going to get off him any bit after, but it's hard to be a head coach when you don't know what the other team's going to do or when they can beat you in so many different ways. But that doesn't give any excuses for Reddick.
That's what I mean. That's
what I
really
how to speak there. I'm sorry.
Some leeway. That's what you're trying to say.
Yeah, leeway. Slack.
I really like the last two games just because of that point you just made. Like game 4 was the small ball lineup that took them home.
Mm-hmm.
Like in order to make that 12-point comeback, they had to go small. They had to rely on Nas. They had to rely on Julius. They needed, DiVincenzo to play some big minutes down the stretch too. And then Reddick countered by not playing Jackson Hayes at all. I mean, he started Dorian Finney-Smith at the 5. Like looking back, absurd.
Well, no, let me butt in right away here. The thing is, the reason why Reddick didn't play Jackson Hayes even after Rudy was dominating?
Why is that? Because he doesn't like to be wrong?
Because at the beginning of the game, at his pregame presser, the one that he stormed out of, he said he wasn't going to play Jackson Hayes. So then being JJ Reddick, no matter, the one thing they needed that game was Jackson Hayes, honestly, just to try it, right? If you're getting completely out offense, like if you're giving up so many offensive rebounds, at least try it. Like maybe put him in for 2 minutes and see if maybe he can give you a spark. But because Reddick said he wouldn't do it and he doesn't want to look like an inexperienced coach, he didn't put him in the whole game. He even put in Maxi Kleba, who hadn't practiced with the Lakers, who hadn't played a single game with the Lakers. It was his first day coming back. And he put him in with 5 minutes left in the game instead of Jackson Hayes because he didn't want to look wrong or appear wrong. And
Maxi Kleber traveled. Like, didn't he have a crazy clutch time travel?
He stepped out of bounds. And
that's what it was.
I mean, hey, look, Chris, me and you were wrong about a lot of things. So many times, me and you're wrong. But the fact, I mean, we'll admit it. We'll say we're wrong. But that's what the issue with Reddick is. And I think that's the issue with why I think the Lakers should fire him and hire Mike Malone tomorrow.
So you think, is it fair to say that JJ Reddick's pride got in the way of letting Rudy Gobert have one of the most dominant playoff performances by a big man ever?
Pride is the devil, man. And I don't think Gobert is a 27 and 24 point player ever. I think he only was allowed to be a 27, 24 player because of JJ Reddick's pride. And I think another issue is you can't have a superstar coach, right? JJ Reddick is a superstar coach. When you look at the Lakers and their team, they got Luka, LeBron, and JJ Reddick. Those are their 3 big faces. When you look at the Wolves, I don't think all these ESPN guys even know what Chris Finch's name is. And I think if you looked on the Wolves sideline and you see a guy standing like this, I don't think you're going to think that's the head coach of our team. So I think you can't have a coach that is drawing so much attention, has that big of an ego. And I think that's the cool thing about Finch is he literally last year will take a back seat, sit behind the bench, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. He's still going to be coaching this team. So that's my Reddick rant that I've been really holding in is just, and he rolls up the sleeves so you can see his tattoos. Oh man, he's got the young kid like tight pants, the sneakers. God,
it's just it's a JJ Reddick. Yes, right now at this point. What I was going to say, though, too, to your Chris Finch point is like we like to talk about Anthony Edwards as a playoff riser. And I think, I mean, you know me, I was on the very team pro Chris Finch this year. I think when a lot of fans were down on him, they don't realize what we have in a coach. Like this is already the most successful coach in Timberwolves history. We think about how many times we've been in the playoffs all 4 or 5 times in the past 4 or 5 years. And that never happens. We're the Timberwolves, and Chris Finch was the spearhead of that, but he's also kind of proven to be a little bit of a playoff riser. I think he outcoached the shit out of the Lakers this entire series. They didn't beat us in one clutch time game. Every time they'd make an adjustment, Chris Finch would make an adjustment back. He'd either go to Nas Reed, he'd bring Rudy back in when Rudy was needed. He'd take Ant out when he knew Ant was kind of getting out of control a little bit. Like I think every single move was tremendous. And I think that's a ginormous credit to him, especially with all the hate he's gotten this year.
Yeah, and I think he's not an inexperienced coach. So I think when you look at Finch, you also have to look at his staff, and I think he trusts his staff, even to a point where the call that we reviewed yesterday could have been a turning point in the game, because that was just a terrible challenge. But that wasn't his fault. He just trusted his staff that much that they said challenge it. He said challenge it, and it was one of the worst challenges I think in NBA history. It had to have been, right?
It was bad. Like I couldn't tell from the TV view, but they showed one replay, and I'm like, oh yeah, it went off his knee.
But
like, there's no.
Dude, that could have changed especially like last game 4. We won because of a successful challenge. Imagine if we would have wasted that challenge on such a stupid play and not. So that shows how much trust he has in his coaching staff, and I think that also just shows. His challenges up to that one have been phenomenal in the playoffs. He was phenomenal.
Yeah. It was especially in game 4. Like, I think there were a lot of points in game 4 when we were down like 6 to 10 points where there were a few questionable calls in there that maybe he could have challenged, but he pocketed that challenge until 9 seconds left in the game. Yes. And what killed us last year in the Dallas Mavericks series that lost this game too? It was approximate foul call on Jaden McDaniels with Kyrie out of bounds. This year, a little karma goes in our favor. Finchie saves the timeout, challenges the out of bounds call, because there was no foul. You can't challenge the foul. Challenge the out of bounds call to look for the proximate foul. A lot of dispute out there if that was a foul or not. Right on.
Timeout. Chris Finch didn't call the timeout. I think that's another hilarious part of this. Yes. JJ Reddick called the timeout, and I think this was, if he would have saved this timeout, they wouldn't have had the whole conundrum with Luka getting tripped. Or was this was after that, right? I don't know. It doesn't matter. But the fact that Reddick
was after Luka got tripped.
Okay, but the fact that Reddick called the timeout, Finch challenges on Reddick's timeout even, so it wouldn't even affect us. We get the proximate foul that if you were watching the game on ESPN, you wouldn't have any idea what a proximate foul was, or the history of a proximate foul, or the fact that that was even an option, because Richard Jefferson was too busy talking about what the Lakers were going to do on the following possession, because there's no way that ball didn't go out on Anthony Edwards.
That was the craziest part. Like, they went straight to commercial, like talking about like, all right, the Lakers are going to drop a play here to win the game. It was crazy. All right. Before we actually wrap up this series, though, like I feel like we've chatted through the series a good amount. I wanted to ask a question on this because I think, deservedly so. Like game 3 and 4 performances by Ant, incredible, reminiscent of the Phoenix and beginning of the Denver series. Great. If you had to pick, though, would you still choose Anthony Edwards, or would you go another player for your series? You player MVP of the series.
Yeah, I think Ant obviously, but he has different standards than I think a lot of other players. So when we're looking at the MVP, I think Ant's the easy option, and I think he was the most valuable player for our team. But if I'm going to give an award, like a little trophy to my most valuable player, it's big Julius Randle. I think he was just, oh man, he's the perfect pairing next to Anthony Edwards, which I don't think anyone really thought that he would be. But there were so many times, especially last night at the end of the game, where Ant was missing every single shot. He was kind of doing that thing where he fades into the corner, and Randall's like, all right, give me the ball, and just goes to work on Austin Reeves, Luka Doncic. It doesn't matter. LeBron James, he'll go at LeBron James, and I just think he's an alpha dog too. We have 2 alpha dogs, but he knows kind of when it's Ant's time. But also Ant, like, he wants to see Randall do it too. So I think having that 2-headed monster, and I think Randall, people always say he chokes in the playoffs. I don't know if that's true. I don't know his past. I only know him right now. And I thought he was phenomenal. His defense was phenomenal. His closeouts on threes was phenomenal. He had 2 just horrendous fouls. Just so, but you love it. You love the hustle. And I think he's just, his intensity that he brought was able to Ant was able to feed off of that. But he's my MVP this series, Julius Randle.
It was just like going back to, and credit to us. We touched on this in our first podcast of the year. This is reminiscent of when they traded for Rudy and that first season was really bad and they needed a year to gel. This is that same exact thing. We said they're going to need 40 to 50 games to gel. They got 40 to 50 games. They went on a crazy run once everyone got healthy. And then it all culminates in this series. And it was a perfect matchup for Julius Randle. Julius Randle was going to have a smaller defender on him no matter who it was. LeBron would have been the only comparable defender. So literally, Ant and Julius were just playing a two-man game up top. One of them would get Reeves, the other would get Luka Doncic. They'd put them both in pick and roll, and all they'd have to do is just feed Julius. He'd take it to the cup, kick out, or Rudy would get an offensive board. That was the entire series, and that was so easy for Julius Randle. And if it's the Warriors next series, it can be the same thing. Have smaller guys on.
One thing that I just thought of is I know everyone's always looking to the future. Everyone's looking forward to like what happens with Ant as he progresses. But I don't think the Wolves could or will ever have a better team than we have right now. I think this is kind of like based off of money wise and contracts wise. I think this is the best the team around Ant will ever be able to be. Because next year you don't know what's going to happen. But right now, I mean, what player would you want to add to this team? Could you add to this team to make it better? Because I don't think this team can be any better than it is right now. And I think we got to enjoy it.
Yeah, my answer to your question is I hope the team is as similar as possible next year as it is this year, because I think people really underrate the fact of consistency within a team for multiple years. Chemistry is a real thing. Ask OKC's had the same team for the past 3 years, and it all kind of culminated to an almost 70-win season. It's the same thing with the Celtics. The Celtics are doing the same exact thing right now. It's those same pieces year in and year out that are, making these teams really good. And I think the Timberwolves are really good right now because there's a lot of inexpensive young players on the team. And obviously that's going to change next year with, Julius is going to get a new contract or opt into a player option. Nas is going to need to get paid. Nickeil Alexander-Walker is going to get paid too. But the key to, keeping this team upgraded is obviously it's going to have to be through the draft. There's no other way to do it. And we kind of, obviously lucked out this year with Detroit being unbelievably good. So we got that first round pick this year, but we're going to lose some of these guys, which tying it back into right now, that's why it's so important that they take advantage of this playoff run, because in all, realistically, at least one of Nas, or Julius Randle is not going to be here next year. And that's just, unless they're willing to go way deep into the second apron because they believe this team can be a championship team next year, they're going to lose one of those key contributors. So they're going to have to supplement through the draft or through really smart, minimum free agent signings, which, as we can see around the league, those usually don't pan out. So you got to get young players. You need the Dillinghams, the Shannons, and the Jalen Clarks to really step up.
We got 3 great rookies in the chamber right now, honestly. And I think Dillingham's the worst one out of those 3 right now. But yeah, I think I even got to tell myself, I think this is the year. We always say this is our year, this year right now, and I think we got to take advantage of it. I think we are. Looking forward, I've been a pessimist. I chose the Lakers in 5, and every single game before the game, I predicted the Lakers would win. That could be a little bit of a psychology thing I'm doing with myself, but I honestly think looking at next series, if we play the Warriors, I think that's a phenomenal matchup for us. And I think that series could look very similar to what happened this series. I think we're younger. I think we can wear them down. I think there's a guy that we hate on the other team. Draymond Green, I would just love to see Rudy just destroyed. That would make me so happy. Just to see Draymond Green walk off the court. Oh, man. That's even better than watching Reddick storm out, is watching Draymond Green leave. So that's something we can get behind. So I think the Warriors are and Jimmy Butler. I mean, it's the perfect series just to clap them out of here. And I think if we play the Rockets, I think that's also a good matchup for us. They're young. I think I'd rather play the Warriors at this point, though, to be honest. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, either one of these teams I think will be a harder matchup for us just because both of these teams have way more levers to pull, similar to how we had against the Lakers. Like the Lakers realistically had like a 6-man rotation with like Vando being the one guy off the bench.
They both have great coaches.
Yeah, and so like they're going to have great coaches. They're going to have deeper rotations. The Warriors are on the smaller side, but the Warriors have proven that they are the only team in the NBA that can consistently, play small ball and be really successful. Like they have really top tier playoff players like Steph, Jimmy. You don't want to see those two in the playoffs, obviously, with all the success they've had. But I would also find the Rockets matchup potentially like you to be a tad harder than the Warriors, just because if you have Steven Adams or Şengün that can really match up height-wise with our team, like the Rockets are a fairly big team. They remind me of actually the Grizzlies a little bit from a few years ago with how they're structured. So I think the Warriors would be a better matchup because we'd have the height advantage, but also if that's not working, we have the lever to go to the Nas and Julius lineup at the 4 and 5. So I'm with you. I'd also rather play the Warriors too than the Rockets, even with the Rockets being a tad under experienced. I mean, they were a second seed for a reason. They're a good team.
Sure. Most definitely. And I don't think we're going to get out of it in 5 games. I guess I don't even know if we'd win the series, but I feel a lot better going into the second round, honestly. So we got about 7 minutes left on this free Zoom recording. There's one more thing I want to touch on that I need to get off my chest. It's just, I think that the Anthony Edwards we're seeing right now is the best version of Anthony Edwards. And I think this version of Anthony Edwards is going to be the version we're going to see next season. And I think next season will be his best season yet. Because I think this season, the way he played in the regular season was not the best version of Anthony Edwards. But I think it was a pivotal part of his development to where he can get to where he is right now in the playoffs. I think Anthony Edwards shooting threes at that level is not him at his best. I think Anthony Edwards getting to the cup is where he's the best. But now that he's built up that rapport of the number 1 3-point shooter in the league, I think that him getting to the cup, and once he realizes that he can do that and remembers that he can get to the cup with ease, but also the defense knows he can shoot, I think that's why we're seeing him mature and kind of morph into this new version of Ant that's a little different than the regular season, at least from what I've seen.
Yeah, and I think it's like he's showcased now that, I mean, he has one of the best NBA 3-point shooting seasons in history right now. I think the best version of Anthony Edwards looks somewhere in the middle. Like I think you'd obviously want him to be in the top 10 or top 5 of 3-point shooting now. Like he's proven he can do that, but also you obviously want a little bit more of the driving element, which I'd say there were 3 phases to Anthony Edwards' regular season, one of which being the start of the season where he was lights out from the 3-point line. Didn't get to the cup as much, but he was averaging around 30 a game. There was a little bit of a lull midseason when the 3 wasn't falling. And again, he wasn't going to the drive as much. So, but then like the last 25 or 30 games, he started to figure out the double teams and he started to mix up the bag with the driving and the 3-point shooting, which is why I think that's what he is right now, is kind of that end of the season Ant with the playmaking, the 3-point shooting and the driving. Like if he can figure out how to do all 3 of those things at the right times, he could be a top player in the league. And that's like, I think he's solidified as a top 10 player. I know the top 5s are being thrown out right now. There's a lot of elite players that are top 5.
Can't hear you, bro.
Uh-oh. Am I back?
You're back. I don't know what you were saying, but they're probably very insightful.
Yeah, I was. I was saying I think he solidified himself as top 5 after this series. And I think the goal next year should be, knocking Luka out of the top 3, knocking Giannis out of the top 3 and trying to get in that top 3 mix with like a Shea or a Jokic. That should be his goal, to get top 3 mix.
And he can go right past. He can beat Shea this year. He can beat Steph. I think his path to the finals this season is really exciting, and I think that the league and the national media really should start buying into this, because I think this is the story of the NBA season. It's knocking off LeBron, Luka, knocking off Steph, Jimmy, knocking off Shea, it's just it's a very difficult path that as a fan, it makes me very excited. The final thing I want to say in these last 4 minutes is I didn't realize it until last night, but man, the Wolves make me so happy. When I know there's a playoff game at night, it just makes me so happy. It gives you something to look forward to, and just we've been with this team for so long, and we've seen them. But I think me and you joined. We're always Wolves fans, sure, but we really joined as Wolves fans the day Anthony Edwards was drafted, and so we've really seen this baby since it came out of the womb. We watched it come out of the womb, and like we were just sitting there watching it come out of the womb, and we saw it and we saw potential in it. When we held it in our arms, we said, this thing could be something. This team could be something. And we were hurt so many times. So many times we got let down. We believed in it. We got let down. We cried. We laughed. And now we've seen it come into what it is now. And it's so exciting. And it's the best, man. I'm so thankful for the whole journey, all the way throughout.
It is fun, man. It's like, going back to when we started the podcast, we were just bored during COVID. We were talking random topics, but then the NBA draft rolled around and we're like, oh, the Wolves got a top pick. That's, we'll talk about that. So it started off from that. Obviously his rookie season wasn't great. They were pretty bad, but after his rookie season, his second year and his third year, like we were always on the Anthony Edwards train, but we really did see that things could start going like exponentially up, and it's gotten to the point where like we've recorded probably over like 70-80 podcasts in the past 5 years. We've been to countless playoff games. We saw the Pat Bev play-in game, so it's been cool to see how like the rise of probably the worst franchise in North American sports history make playoffs for 5 straight years, go to the Western Conference Finals last year, have another really good shot to either do that this year or go to the finals this year. So it's fun. It's fun seeing it at those early stages. Being a Timberwolves fan used to not be cool. I live in Minneapolis now. If you're a Timberwolves fan, you're automatically, people love you. It's like the cool thing to do here. So it's cool to see the process. It's cool to see how excited everybody is about the Wolves. It's the best show in town right now to watch the Timberwolves.
Yeah, and it's not over. That's the one thing I was so excited about when we won last night. Is now we got potentially 7 more games to watch, at least, at very worst. We got, even if we lose, it's all part of the process. But just being able to watch a little bit more and just have a few more nights of watching Chris Finch and the Wolves strap up for battle, man. Nothing better.
Nothing better, man. It's always fun watching the Wolves play. It's a really likable team the past few years, and especially this season. So it's exciting. These guys deserve it. A lot of guys have kind of been put down over the years, especially the Randles, especially the Goberts. So I think there'd be nothing better than those 2 guys, especially silencing the critics and going far in the playoffs.
Yeah, man. Well, have a great rest of your night, brother. Thanks for hopping on. I think we got to do this again. I mean, we always say this, but it's easy, man. It's easy. It's fun. I love talking Wolves. So we'll probably do it again. Hey, if you guys watch all the way through, leave a comment or something. We'll appreciate that. Have a good rest of your night.
We love it.